Juandolyn Stokes, right here, News and Talk. We are WAOK. I want to welcome. It's time now for Law and Legal, and with our very special guest, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, who comes on every Tuesday at 11 o'clock for Law and Legal. And today, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, we have a very special guest that you've invited to join us, and we'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Juandolyn. It's so great to be here. I'm going to cut right to the chase because I want our audience to hear again from a friend of our station who has been on
Yes.
many times, and that would be from Ben Crump. You all know who he is. We call him the Attorney General, our Attorney General. I think he's the world's Attorney General. But for purposes of today, because he does so many wonderful things, people never see the philanthropy, all the philanthropy that he does. He's in the community. He's about the community, globally, domestically, everywhere. But Nolan Wells is on our hearts today, and he is his attorney. Our prayers go out to his family. And Ben, we want to thank you for joining us today and for giving us an update. We know that you don't have a lot of time. We are so honored that you're here today. And Ben, as you all know, is also a past president of the National Bar Association, a member
Right.
of Omega Psi Phi, a husband, a father, an extraordinary. Oh, he put up the hooks. So, Ben, if you could tell us what's going on with Nolan Wells' case, and thank you so much on behalf of our entire community and everyone for representing this family and doing so much to bring attention to the value of Black lives.
Now, thank you, CK, for being a great mentor and a true champion of justice. Thank you, Gwendolyn, for allowing me to talk with your audience about the importance of Nolan Wells' case, because it's Nolan Wells, but it's also uh, Tyler Smith, who's another 18-year-old Black boy who was killed in highly questionable circumstances. And it's also, CK, about Daniel Irvin, another 18-year-old Black boy who was killed in highly questionable circumstances, where all of them were the only Black person involved with their friends. And I know you have boys, CK, so this hits a little differently for Black parents. And we know the story. Nolan Wells went out with his friends on Horn Island on July 4th. They all came back. Nolan didn't. They claim he wanted to stay behind, even though he didn't keep his cell phone. He didn't keep his keys, which doesn't seem to make sense to many of us. And then 2 days later, he ended up washed up on shore dead. And since that day to this one, we continue to ask, what happened to Nolan Wells? There were 300, 400 people out there on Horn Island, and they're trying to tell us nobody knows nothing. Nobody saw anything. It's not adding up. And the fact that, you had this CTO 911 call that seemed to suggest the presence of Nolan Wells when they broke down the audio, we have retained some of the foremost audio engineering experts, because CK trained us to make sure you follow the facts, you follow the evidence. And so, as with everything, I'm for truth, no matter who it implicates or who it exonerates. I'm for justice, no matter who it convicts or who it acquits. But I am most for transparency so everybody can see and we can trust what happens.
Absolutely. Transparency, Ben, thank you so much for doing that. What people don't realize is the diligence, the intensity, the resources that you have to deploy to get to the bottom of a case like this tragic death of Nolan Wells. Transparency. What kind of hurdles have you been encountering in Mississippi?
Well, it's interesting where white people come up and say, we want truth. We want to get the truth. We want justice. It's a noble thing. They're celebrated. But when Black people come and do the same thing, oh, we're race baiting. We're causing trouble. We're putting people's lives at risk. And we're saying, hold on. We're just asking for answers of what happened to this 18-year-old dead Black child. It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes of all times by the great James Baldwin. He said, a white man, Patrick Henry, stands up and says, give me liberty or give me death. And everybody all around the world applauds him and exalts him. And then a black man says the same thing word for word. And he's called anti-American. He's called treason. He's called a race baiter. Well, like I said previous times, the governor is attacking me and Reverend Al Sharpton. And I've tried to be a student of history, CK, and I understand the governor's predecessors, they criticized, Fannie Lou Hamer, a
Yes.
Mississippi native.
Yeah.
They criticized Martin Luther King. They criticized Ida B. Wells. They criticized all of my heroes for
Absolutely.
saying that we're unapologetic defenders of Black life and Black liberty. Thurgood Marshall, they criticize. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I guess I'm in pretty good company.
You're in
Now
great
that-
company.
Yeah.
You're in great company, Ben. And a lot of people don't appreciate the toll, obviously the toll on the family. The toll on the family having lost their son tragically, their nephew, their loved one tragically.
Yeah.
But there's also been a lot of retaliation against the family, right, Ben?
Oh my God. These are just good people who are grieving, but yet trying to say, we don't accept that my son just accidentally drowned and nobody knows nothing. He was a college football player, CK, like your sons. I mean, he was in tip-top shape. How does something like this happen based on what they're saying and nobody knows anything? And because they are persistent and they refuse to let their son death be swept under the rug, I mean, they're being attacked ungodly. I mean, she was a nurse. She is a nurse, and she's never gotten bad reviews, CK Hoffler. Juandolyn, she never got them, but now she is getting all these sick people going online saying the most hateful, terrible things, talking about she's incompetent, she's not a good nurse. I mean, it's just wrong on so many levels. But again, like I said, when white people come and ask for truth and justice, they're met with compassion and sympathy. When Black people do it, they seem to attack us, even trying to blame Nolan for, as part of the things responsible for his death. We just think they would be saying different stuff had he not been a young Black man.
Attorney Ben Crump, would you say that this pattern of Black men, their lives being taken, is something that we're just now seeing, or this has been going on for a while? What would you say?
No, this has been going on for a while, and it's just so dramatic when we think about around this 4th of July time frame that you see Nolan Wells on the boat with his white friends, and he ends up unalived. And then you go to Daniel Irvin, who's on a fishing boat outside of Dallas with his white friends, and he allegedly drowns, and they throw away his cell phone, throw away his clothes, and delete his text messages. And it's almost as if, even though they was dishonest about all those things, now they want the family to believe that they're being honest when they say he accidentally drowned. And it took the Dallas Police Department 3 months to charge them, even after they had the confessions.
Yeah.
And then you go to Tyler Smith, one that's just so mind-boggling on so many levels. He's allegedly playing Russian roulette, they say. He's on 4th of July.
Yeah.
He's at a house party. Well, he's the only Black person there. And it's just troubling because they claim he shot himself in the head. They say it was an accidental shooting. Police just take their words for it. CK, you can't make this stuff up. They don't do a gunshot residue test. They don't bag his hands. The mama and the grandmother are just outraged, saying, why aren't you doing a gunshot residue test? And they say, why? They were playing Russian roulette. Gunshot residue will be on all their hands. I don't even
Absolutely.
understand that logic. But then, CK, they say this is the gun he shot himself with. When the police get there, the police go analyze that gun. The next day they come back and say, this gun doesn't match the casings that we found near his body. And so they say conclude this wasn't the gun. So now they start asking and investigating everybody, where's the gun, all this stuff. And finally, 7 days later, they surround the young man's house, and then at that point, he offers the gun and says, well, this is the gun, that we had there. And you like, hold on, you only gonna charge him with tampering with evidence? I
Evidence.
mean,
Yeah.
he took a gun away from the scene of the killing. And
Yeah.
so it's just mind-boggling. And none of these black boys' deaths have had anybody be held accountable. Not one person.
Wow.
Well, we know, Ben Crump, you're going to change that.
Yes.
You're going to change that, and you are a godsend. For our listeners here in the Atlanta area, there was a case, Ben, in 2016, very similar. A 14-year-old boy, I handled this case. He was on a scientific trip with 32 other students to Belize, and he drowned in a river. All the kids were swimming. Chaperone's supposed to be watching, not paying attention. He drowned within arm's reach of the other kids. All the kids got back on the bus. He's the only young black boy. Got on the bus, didn't even realize he was there. He was not there. About to take off to go to the hotel. And then they said, where's Tamari Jackson? We have to say his name,
Amen.
Tamari Jackson.
Yeah.
And I say that, Ben, because he had a GoPro that when his body was found several hours later, and they told his mother he was wandering in the woods like it was his fault. It wasn't his fault. He was there right with the kids doing what he was supposed to do. When his body was found, the GoPro was mysteriously missing. And a year later, we got it from the U.S. Embassy, Ben. A year later, there was a year statute of limitations in Belize. We filed that case in Georgia and we wanted to make law on that case. But the point is that the same thing happened. A young black boy disappearing, drowning with chaperones, supposedly all around watching,
Wow.
and 31 other children. How does that happen? And no one realized that he's missing.
Shame, shame, shame. So thank you, CK, for always being a trailblazer. Thank you all for allowing me to help give Nolan's family a voice
Yes.
in Atlanta and all over America, because we are going to find out what happened to Nolan Wells. We are going to find out.
I appreciate you. We appreciate you for your time sharing with our audience today. And keep up the great work, Attorney Crump.
Hey,
Please
Ben,
Thank
we
you, Queen.
love you. We
I love
love
you more.
and we support you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
we
so
do.
much.
God bless.
God bless. Thanks so much. It's Law and Legal with Attorney C.K. Hoffler, and of course our special guest, Attorney Ben Crump. We'll go to break and we'll be back with more right here on News and Talk, WAOK.